Okay, so this topic is averages from listed data. So it's when data's put in a list and you have to find the averages from each set. So the LO, if you write that down, write down key points, and these are the following key points. So firstly, averages of data are numbers that are roughly in the middle of the value, so they kind of show the general pattern or the trend. There are three types of average: mode, median and mean. You will have heard of these before at primary school. You need to remember which is which and how to work out each one. So you need to memorise that. When it comes to your GCSEs, they won't tell you what's what. So firstly, the mode is the most frequent value and it's what comes up the most. The median is the middle value when all the numbers are in order, and that's really important that you order the numbers first. That's where lots of students go wrong. The mean is when you add up all the numbers, then divide by how many there are. And that's it for the averages. Now, the other thing that you need to be able to do is called the range. Now, the range tells you the spread of data. So the gap between the biggest and the smallest. So the higher the range means the higher or the bigger the spread. So like I said, to work out that range, you've got to do the biggest value, subtract the smallest value. So if you just make sure that you've got those key points written down, and make sure that you have memorised the difference between mode, median and mean in particular. Okay, so in terms of the first example, here's what I mean by listed data, okay? So it's just numbers that are all randomly written down like this. So the question says, David asks his friends what their shoe size is. Below is a list of the results. So these are the shoe sizes that David's friend gave. Now the modal shoe size, modal just means mode, okay? Which you know is the most frequent answer because that's what we've written in our key point. So you scan across the list and normally it stands out as to what the most frequent answer is. And you can see here there are 5 size 6s written down, and that is the mode. That is the most common answer. Okay, the median is when you have to put all these sizes in order first and then we find the middle. So first things first, writing this down in order. So you just have to make sure that you don't miss any out when you write this down. I've done this earlier so that it's accurate and I don't make any mistakes. But what you can do at the end is just count up these numbers. There are 16 of them and there are 16 here, so we know we'll not miss any out. Right, once you've done that, to work out the median, what you have to do is just find that middle number, and to do that you cross off from both sides one at a time. So you cross off one of the smallest, then the largest, then the next smallest and the next largest, and you keep repeating this until you find your middle value. Okay, so this time we've reached this middle value, okay, which is this size 6 here. So that is our median. Now, what is the mean? To work out the mean, as we've written in our key points, you have to add up all the numbers. So I've added all of these up using a calculator, and I got 93. And then you divide by the number of numbers that there are. So like I said, there are 16 numbers here. So I've divided by 16. And I get 5.8. And that is our mean shoe size. Now the range of the shoe sizes is the biggest take away the smallest. Now when we've ordered these, it's very clear to see what the biggest and smallest are, and you subtract them. So 9 minus 2 is 7. So our range is 7. So that means the spread of our data is 7. Okay, so that's it for working out averages from a list. So just make sure that you've got that worked example written down. Pause the video if you need to, and then we'll move on to the your turn question. Okay, so your turn, I'd like you to do this question. So pause the video and have a go. Okay, so the solutions for this, so our modal height, we know that mode means the most frequent, and the number that comes up the most is 26 centimetres. So 26 centimetres is our modal height. Now the median, we have to order these numbers. Again, I've done this earlier so that I don't make any mistakes. Just make sure that you don't miss any out. But this is what you should have got. Okay, so then when we cross off on both sides until we get to the middle, Okay, so our middle number is actually here. Now, when it does this, when there's a middle number in the middle of two numbers, you need to find the midpoint of these two. Now, because these numbers are both the same, the middle of that is just 26, okay? But if those two numbers were different, then you can find out what is in the middle of those two by adding them up and divided by 2. So you could have done, if you wanted to, that, and you get 26. That's what you would do if those two numbers were different. Anyway, the median is 26. Okay, the mean height, we have to add all these numbers up. Okay, so you add all these up, which I've done before, and I got 419. And you divide by how many there are. There are 16 numbers altogether, and you get an average height of 26.2 centimetres. Now, you should notice that because these are all averages, that these numbers should roughly be the same. You might get a little bit of variation, but for example, if on this I got an answer of 7, then you know that you've done something wrong, so you can go back and check, because the other averages should be quite similar to each other. Okay, and last but not least, the range. So the range is the biggest takeaway, the smallest, so 31 minus 21, and you get 10 centimetres as the range. Okay, so just make sure that you've got all that correct, and once you have done, can you make sure that you move on to complete the worksheet and the exit card and send that off to your teachers.